Hey everyone, welcome to this week's installment of This Week in HOS-265 Hospitality Law. This is week 6. And in week 6, we're going over Chapter 7, Legally Selecting Employees. This week, we'll also talk about, within that chapter, the selection, which includes the verification and possible discrimination legal aspects that we need to be careful about, and then the entire employment relationship. So discrimination and verification are two big parts there. Those are at the beginning when it talks about employee selection. And you'll see throughout this chapter, it's not overly long chapter because it does give us quite a bit of information on different types of employment applications and other figures such as guidelines for conducting a job interview. One great resource is on page 123. It talks about the inappropriate questions, but as well as the appropriate questions that you may ask regarding each of those subjects there. I think that's, again, if this is a book that you plan on selling back to the college or turning in or trying to sell on eBay or something like that, I would make a copy of this before you did that and keep this on hand, especially if you have any plans on becoming a manager or business owner, food and beverage director, executive chef, whatever it might be, where you'd be in a direct hire position. You want to have this available. And again, most of us are leaning that way. That's why we're here in the first place, to get a better job than just being a cook or a hotel desk service agent. So moving on through the chapter, again, verification process, the discrimination process. There are different parts in there talking about the Americans with Disabilities Act, affirmative action, all kinds of discriminating type issues that have come up in the past that require us to have these things: pregnancy, genetic information, non-discrimination, those kinds of things. A lot of the things we think we've heard before, especially when it comes to the Americans with Disabilities Act. That seems pretty, pretty evident in most things that we do. We understand, even looking back at page 123, you can't ask someone their race. You can't ask them, um, their nationality or anything like that. You can't ask them their religion or how old they are. You can't do those kinds of things. You can't just come out and ask someone, do they have any disabilities or anything like that, because of a lot of these acts that were passed to help keep both the employer and the potential employee protected. So that's there. And then as you get to the back of the chapter, again, flipping through quite a bit of resources that are there for us that a lot of us have probably seen in our employment eligibility, those W-4s, I-9s, those kinds of things that we're required to do when we take a new position. Those are in there. And then also at the end there, 7.4, the employment relationship. In the state of South Carolina, everything is at will. We just don't really have labor unions down here. At-will employment means that at any time, both the employer or the employee can determine that they don't want to work there anymore. But that does not mean that you're not protected by the laws of employment discrimination, those kinds of things. So just because we are at will does not mean that you can just fire someone for their race, age, or any other kind of discrimination area that we go over, in the book. So as always, looking at what's due this week, our agenda is posted here. Quiz number 7, and just because I think there might have been some people that got a little confused this past week, the weeks don't line up with the chapter anymore, as we did 2 chapters in 1 week. So from now on, it'll be one off. So week 6 is actually chapter 7. Week 7 will be chapter 8, so on and so forth. So just make sure you're paying attention to what we have to do there. So again, quiz number 7 is due this week. You will have an attendance question that we'll go over in just a minute, as well as a discussion board post. We'll go over both of those. I don't know if anybody got a chance to look at the little announcement I put out last week about the major news update for the travel and tourism industry. the merger was broke. I believe it was last Monday, so a week ago now, of the new company that was coming together towards the end of 2022. I think fall was what they said, but it was for Spirit Airlines and Frontier Airlines. In the United States, those are two of the more popular budget-friendly um, uh, airlines, and they're joining together, and that could have significant impacts for our area, not just GSP, but obviously Atlanta and Charlotte, Asheville, and even Columbia. And even as you get further down to the coast, you can expand, but it could have impacts there. But it does make them the fifth largest airline in the United States once they combine. So no ideas on what they'll name it or if they'll change the name, which one they'll take. But there have been, a lot of people, if you've heard of either one of those airlines, there's a lot of funny memes and things like that going around about their service and their add-ons and things like that. But it is an interesting read. It's really fast, quick. It's really quick. Won't take you very long to read through it, but it is interesting, and you may have already seen it in the news, so I won't spend too much time on it. Go into our course content. What is due this week? Again, this is Chapter 7. You can see the outline here, and again, we kind of broke this down: employment selection, which includes discrimination, verification, and the employment relationship. All of that information is there with your objectives to learn and understand these questions or these statements here by reading the chapter. Review and analyze the situation in 7.2. That's on page... That's on page 127. Looking at it, you'll see a scenario with a business owner at the Golden Dragon Oriental Restaurant and her process of trying to hire between two different employees, one of which is the nationality of both Miss Wong and the majority of the other staff, while the other one is the other candidate is a Hispanic citizen, Danielle Hidalgo. She's the daughter of one Mexican citizen and one American citizen, and that's there for you. There are 3 questions. Rather this week than you just going through and writing out an answer, because I've had to continue to discuss how these are supposed to be dictated each week. Changed it up a little bit, so you'll answer each of those questions 1 through 3 based on the information that I have provided here. So in question number 1, you're going to include a response for why you might answer yes and a response to why you might answer no. So that requires you to answer it both ways with detail. Why you think yes, why you think no. Then at the end of it, you will state your actual stance on yes or no. On number 2, when answering that question, you're going to provide a minimum of 1 piece of information from the chapter to support your response. So with that, when you're writing your response for that, when you're looking back through the book to, again, you should have already read the chapter and went through that. But in order to correctly answer this question and receive credit, you must put a piece of information from the book to support your response. You must mark the page number and the section in this question. So if you refer back to page 126 and use information from the discrimination and the selection process, you are to put down page 127, section 1.2. And it must match something specifically from that section in order to get credit. Okay. Number 3, answer accordingly. Recall information from this chapter on how you think they should advertise for open positions in the future at the Golden Dragon Restaurant. As always, here you will find your flashcards that I put together each week for you, a Kahoot to help you prepare for your quiz. There is also a few things about at-will states here. It's pretty cool. There are also sample interview scripts in there. And as always, a scenario of a day in the life in the hospitality manager. Okay, so again, both the day in the life in the hospitality manager and your analyze the situation 7.2 are both real life scenarios that have happened in the past and could happen to you again in the future. So looking at everything that we have to do for Chapter 7, that's there. Then we're going to go over to our discussion board. Last week was the Super Bowl edition, and I thought that was pretty neat. Everybody should have gotten their responses by now. But just looking at the what would you do for for this week, you're going to look at the end of Chapter 7, the what would you do section, just as it was last week, regarding the interviewing, vetting, and the hiring process, as you are the director of the HR department. So you'll answer those 4 questions at the end, and then number those for me. It's great to have people write full paragraphs, and that is awesome, but just kind of note where you start question number 1 and start question number 2, and then start question number 3 and start question number 4. Just as some of them run together and some of the responses become similar, I just want to make sure that there is a distinction there between the questions, and you get everything that you need. Going back to, again, that's week 6, the what would you do. Going back to our announcements for the week, that's just another place that you can find information on what's due. If at all, at any time during this week, or even if it's come up in previous weeks or it may come up in the future, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions, comments, or concerns regarding the assignments that are due, regarding the information that's in the chapter, regarding scenarios that might have happened to you. Now, again, I'm not going to get involved in any kind of legal matters or anything like that, but if you're in the building and you have questions, please don't hesitate to stop by. My door is always open unless I am recording one of these videos. I always prefer if you make an appointment, just so that I can be sure to give you my undivided attention and we don't have anything else going on. But that does not hinder you from stopping by and saying hello. Being that is an online only class, I don't get to see a lot of people. There are some students in this class that are in another class of mine, or it's someone that I've seen throughout the kitchens and their labs and things like that. But again, that's not everybody. You may not know it's me, and of course I may not know it's you. So just stop by and say hello. Say, hey, I'm in your HOS-265 class, or I'm in your law class, whatever it might be, and I just wanted to say hello. I'd really appreciate that. It's always nice to put a face with all these different discussion boards and tests and quizzes and all that we do each week. It's always nice to see who it is and kind of develop a little bit of a relationship with you there. So as I stated, this week, week 6, chapter 7, legally selecting employees. Next week we'll move on to legally managing employees, and I can promise you that one will be as important as any other chapter we've done so far, because so many situations we may come into, we're just managing the employees. We're not they're there when we got there, and all the changes there. And then obviously once we've legally selected our employees through that process, that we're managing them correctly as well. So all that will be due next week, and we will get to that when we can. But for now, this is what we're working on this week. And if you have any questions at all regarding quiz number 7, our attendance response question, or discussion board post, please do not hesitate to reach out. And y'all have a great week. I hope it goes well with not just hospitality law, but everything that you're doing. Have a good day.